President Trump has about 30 hours left in the White House before President-elect Biden is sworn in. In a break from tradition, Mr. Trump is not expected to attend tomorrow's inauguration, but just like his predecessors, the president is planning to issue a wave of pardons before leaving office. So Ben Tracy is following the latest from the White House and joins us now this morning. Ben, let us start there. We have heard that there could be as many as, 100 pardons and commutations. I saw it sort of floating out there that perhaps a well-known rapper was hoping for a pardon. Of course, there are individuals close to the president that many are wondering whether or not they're in line for a pardon. What do you know?
Yeah, so that's the big guessing game today, is who will be on this list of pardons and commutations once the president puts it out. We are told by sources here at the White House to expect up to 100 of them today. And what we're looking for is to see, are people like his former political advisor, Steve Bannon, on the list? Are people like his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, on this list? And then, of course, is the president going to try to preemptively pardon himself or any of his family members? So we'll be watching for all of that today. There will be a lot of names on these lists that people are just not aware of. And then, as you mentioned, there are reports that there might be some rappers on this list. So this could be a very eclectic list of pardons and commutations by presidential standards.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about sort of the presidential standards. Over the years, the president has pardoned certain people, and certainly there were high-profile individuals that were chummy with the president or, flattering to the president that received pardons, but others received pardons too that, maybe had extremely long sentences that seemed unfair. But when you kind of look at the list and compare him to other former presidents like Barack Obama, George W. Bush, how does his list compare?
A couple of things. When we say that he could issue, up to 100 pardons or commutations today, that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not a lot by historical standards. On his second to last day in office, President Obama issued about 330 of those. Those were mostly to low-level drug offenders who had mandatory sentences. But overall, President Trump has actually used his clemency powers far less than his most recent predecessors. I think what stands out, what's a little bit different, is that some of the president's pardons and commutations have been controversial, and that's because he has used them often to pardon people that were close to him or that had served in the administration, that were accused in the Russia probe, and also even some tangential family members, like the father of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So the president has also gone out of the normal process for pardons and commutations, which is usually something that comes up through the Department of Justice and then gets to the White House for review. Or if the White House has people that they're interested in, they'd send it over to the Department of Justice for a review. That largely has not happened under the Trump administration. This has been much more ad hoc. People come to the president personally, he hears their case, and then he decides whether or not he's going to issue one of those. So it will be interesting today to finally read this list once it comes out.
Typically presidents may spend the last few weeks reminding America of their successes during their term. But for this president, we had the attempted insurrection at the Capitol. So that's what everyone's talking about. And he has, he's sort of burrowed into the White House, and we haven't seen or heard much from him. So I'm wondering if there is work being done, though, to solidify his legacy.
Yeah, we have not seen the president now for more than 6 days. We haven't seen him in public since he was in Texas at the border wall last Tuesday, and then he issued that very brief video after he was impeached on Wednesday that didn't mention the impeachment at all. In terms of behind the scenes here at the White House, all evidence is that the president has been attempting some sort of kind of reputation management, damage control in the wake of that attack on the Capitol, and been keeping a very low profile. And because he doesn't have Twitter, we're also not hearing from him. The work of the actual presidency seems to have been delegated to Mike Pence, who has been kind of filling this role of acting president. He was flying around the country this weekend thanking the troops. He's going to lead a coronavirus task force meeting today. But the president, has been mostly focused on this issue of pardons, who he's going to pardon here at the White House. There doesn't seem to be a lot of last-minute flurry of executive orders of any real note. The one that did come out last night was the president trying to reverse this travel ban that he had instated on travel from Brazil and a lot of European countries, saying that by January 26th, he would lift that ban as long as people came into the United States with a negative COVID test. The Biden team came right out and said that's not something the new president is going to support, and that those travel bans will largely stay in place.
You know, speaking of what the president has been up to, the daily White House press schedule has sort of repeated the same note over and over again. President Trump will work from early in the morning until late in the evening. He will make calls and have many meetings. And I think we spoke earlier this week, or I guess it would have been yesterday, and you said that you had heard that this was written by the president himself. But, you know, there's still a lot going on. You pointed out some of the stuff that he's been doing, but what about the pandemic? I mean, we are breaking records daily when it comes to deaths. Has the president been doing anything about that in his final weeks?
There is no evidence that the president has been engaged at all when it comes to fighting the pandemic, especially given some of the big issues with the rollout of the vaccine and in terms of getting those shots into people's arms. That, again, has really been delegated to Vice President Pence, who continues to hold these coronavirus task force meetings and is trying to work with governors to streamline that process. But no, we have heard nothing from the president about that. He did plan to spend the last week kind of taking credit for accomplishments of the administration, including Operation Warp Speed, which was the administration's effort to develop these vaccines. That part of it was successful in terms of getting those vaccines developed in record time, but there seemed to be some significant issues in terms of the rollout of the vaccine across the country. But no, the president has not been engaged on those issues. He's not been talking about economic relief. The president really has been out of sight here at the White House. We do know behind the scenes he is talking about his impeachment trial, trying to figure out who is going to represent him at that trial. So the president has been more fixated on the aftermath of the Capitol assault and what comes next for him at the impeachment trial than any actual governing of the country.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting that what we've been talking about is his lifting of this travel ban in relation to COVID-19. And, you know, one of his points of pride when it came to tackling the pandemic was that he instituted a travel ban. It's one of the things he kept on repeating over and over again when he was asked what did his administration do in the early days of the pandemic. So to hear in the waning days of the pandemic, he's lifting a travel ban, which will be immediately reversed, is just adding to sort of the strangeness of the end of this of his term. Ben Tracy, thank you so much. Appreciate talking to you.
Thank you.